Welcome to the Senior Health Channel, a place made just for you. Let me ask you something. Have you ever opened the mailbox, seen another bill, and felt that sinking weight in your chest? Or maybe the phone rings with a number you don't recognize, and your heart skips because you fear it's another collector. You've worked hard all your life, raised your family, paid your dues, yet here you are, still worried about debts that never seem to go away. But what if I told you? Some of those debts may already be powerless. What if the burden you've been carrying for years no longer belongs on your shoulders? Most people don't know the laws that protect them, and collectors certainly won't rush to tell you. In today's video, we're going to uncover surprising truths, 6 kinds of debts that may not be your responsibility anymore. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover could change the way you sleep tonight. If you like this video, please leave a 1 in the comments. If you don't like it, please enter a 0. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and let's get started. 1. Old medical bills beyond collection. Imagine this, you're sitting at the kitchen table, a cup of coffee cooling by your side, when the mail arrives. Among the letters is one with bold red letters across the envelope, "Final Notice." Your stomach tightens. It's another reminder of that hospital stay years ago, the one that left you with bills you thought you'd never finish paying. Each time the phone rings with an unfamiliar number, your heart jumps. Could it be another collector? Another demand? You've worked hard your entire life. You raised a family, paid your taxes, and tried to do the right thing. Yet now, in your later years, you find yourself haunted by medical debt that feels endless. But here's a secret most seniors don't know. Medical bills have an expiration date. Just like milk in your fridge or medicine in your cabinet, debt doesn't stay fresh forever. Every state in America has what's called a statute of limitations. This is a law that sets a time limit on how long a hospital or a debt collector can legally take you to court. In some states, it might be 3 years, in others, 6. But once that time has passed, the debt loses its legal power. Collectors won't tell you this. Why would they? Fear is their most effective tool. They rely on you not knowing your rights, hoping you'll keep sending money simply because you feel you must. But the truth is powerful. If the statute of limitations has expired, you are not legally required to pay. They can still call, they can still send letters, they can even threaten, but their words are empty. They cannot touch your Social Security benefits, and they cannot drag you into court. Think about what that really means. Instead of choosing between paying an old hospital bill and buying the medication you need today, you can put your health first without guilt. For many seniors, learning this single fact lifts a burden that has weighed on their shoulders for years. Take Margaret, a 74-year-old widow. For nearly a decade, she sent checks each month to cover a hospital bill from long ago. She believed she had no choice. Then, after speaking with a legal aid attorney, she discovered the statute of limitations had passed years earlier. She never had to send another cent. In that moment, her life changed. Her money could finally go toward groceries, medicine, and the little joys she had been denying herself. And maybe, just maybe, the same freedom is waiting for you. 2. Expired credit card debt, time-barred. Picture this, you're sorting through a stack of papers on the counter when the phone rings. It's a number you don't recognize. You hesitate, then answer, and immediately a voice on the other end launches into threats about an old credit card balance. They claim you owe thousands, they warn of lawsuits, and they suggest your benefits could be taken. The fear creeps in because deep down you remember using that card years ago, maybe for groceries, maybe to help during an emergency. You cut it up long ago, but the balance never seemed to go away. Here's what most people don't realize. Credit card debt also comes with an expiration date. Just like medical bills, it's governed by the statute of limitations. This law sets a time window for a lender to sue you for repayment. Maybe it's 3 years, depending on your state. But once that window closes, the debt becomes time-barred. In plain English, that means the collector has lost their legal power. They can still make noise, but they can't take you to court. They can't touch your Social Security. They can't force you to pay. But there's a trap, one that collectors hope you'll fall into. If you make even a small payment, or if you admit the debt is yours, the clock resets. Suddenly, what was powerless comes back to life, and they can use the law against you again. That's why it's so important to pause before reacting. Don't let fear push you into agreeing on the spot. Instead, ask questions. Find out how old the debt really is. Robert, a 78-year-old retired bus driver, lived with this kind of fear for years. Every day, his phone rang with demands for payment on a credit card he hadn't used in over 15 years. Collectors threatened him, insisted they'd take a piece of his Social Security. Robert lost sleep, believing he was helpless. But when he finally visited a free legal clinic, he learned the truth. The statute of limitations had expired long ago. The collectors had no power. He stopped paying. The calls eventually faded. And for the first time in years, Robert felt peace. So the next time a stranger's voice tries to scare you about an old credit card bill, remember, if time has run out, their threats are nothing more than empty words. You may already be free without even realizing it. 3. Certain private student loans. Think back for a moment. Decades ago, maybe when you were younger and chasing a dream, you took out a small student loan. It might have been for a teaching certificate, nursing school, or even a few college classes that life never allowed you to finish. At the time, it felt like an investment in your future. But years passed, priorities shifted, and that loan never truly went away. Even now, collectors may still be calling, insisting you owe money on something that happened half a lifetime ago. Here's the part many seniors don't know. Not all student loans last forever. Federal student loans are one thing, but private student loans, those taken out from banks or other private lenders, are a very different story. Just like medical bills or credit card debt, many of these loans are also controlled by statutes of limitations. That means after a certain number of years, lenders lose the legal ability to sue you for repayment. They might keep calling, they might send letters, but their threats hold no legal weight. And here's something even more important: your children and grandchildren cannot inherit this debt. Collectors often play on that fear, suggesting that if you don't pay, your loved ones will be stuck with the bill. But the truth is, private student loans do not transfer to family members after death. Once you're gone, the debt dies with you, unless someone else's name was on the loan from the beginning. Take Linda, an 82-year-old grandmother who spent years scraping together small payments on a private student loan she had taken decades earlier. She felt ashamed that she had never been able to fully pay it off, and she was terrified her grandchildren might inherit the burden. Then, after speaking with a non-profit attorney, she learned two things. First, the statute of limitations in her state had long since expired, and second, her grandchildren would never be responsible for that loan. The relief she felt was overwhelming. For the first time in years, she could stop punishing herself for something that no longer had power over her life. If this story has been helpful to you, don't forget to hit subscribe and leave a comment to share your thoughts. Every word from you is the motivation for us to keep bringing more valuable content. The truth is simple: carrying old debt into your 70s and 80s doesn't make you irresponsible, it makes you human. Life happens, dreams shift, and sometimes bills go unpaid. But just because a collector calls doesn't mean you still owe. In many cases, those private student loans are nothing more than ghosts from the past. And once you know your rights, you can finally let them go. 4. Old personal loans from friends or family. Some of the heaviest debts we carry aren't written on a credit report or tracked by a bank. They live in our memories. Maybe it was a small loan from a cousin when times were tough, or a few $100s borrowed from a church friend to keep the lights on. There might not have been a contract, just a handshake, a promise, and the hope that one day you'd pay it back. But life has a way of interfering. The years slipped by, the money was never returned, and now, decades later, the guilt still lingers. Here's the truth most people don't realize. If those loans were never formalized in writing, or if many years have passed without any legal action, they are no longer enforceable. The law treats them as closed. No one can drag you into court over that old handshake deal. Yet so many seniors continue to punish themselves, carrying an invisible burden that weighs heavily with age. The real pain isn't financial, it's emotional. It's the memory of asking for help. It's the shame of not keeping your word. And it's the fear that others, even after all these years, might still judge you. But think about it. Is it fair to spend your 70s or 80s reliving a debt no one else remembers? Life is filled with sickness, job losses, and unexpected hardships. Sometimes you simply couldn't pay back what you borrowed. And that's not failure, that's being human. Take Helen, an 81-year-old woman who still worries about a $50 loan she borrowed from a church friend in the 1970s. That friend had long since passed away, but Helen felt she had let her down. The guilt haunted her for more than 40 years. Then one day, her daughter explained that the debt was not only unenforceable but meaningless in the eyes of the law. Helen cried with relief. She had carried a weight she never needed to bear. Forgiveness, especially at this stage of life, isn't just something you give to others. It's something you must give to yourself. Those old personal loans that no one can collect, that no one even remembers, should no longer steal your peace. You've lived a long life, full of challenges and triumphs. It's time to set down the burdens that don't belong to you anymore. 5. Expired medical debts sold to collectors. It starts the same way for so many seniors. A hospital stay years ago, a surgery that saved your life, or a treatment you thought you'd finished paying for. Then, out of nowhere, a new letter arrives in the mail. It looks official. Big bold letters at the top say, "Collections," or "Final Notice." Your heart races. The bill is from 1998, or maybe even earlier, yet here it is again, demanding thousands of dollars. You wonder, how can this still be haunting me after all these years? What's really happening is something few people talk about. Hospitals and clinics often sell old, unpaid debts to third-party collectors. These companies buy the accounts for pennies on the dollar, then do everything they can to scare you into paying the full amount. They call at odd hours, send intimidating letters, and even suggest they can take your social security check. But here's the truth: if the statute of limitations has passed, that debt is legally uncollectible. It doesn't matter who owns it, the hospital, a debt buyer, or anyone else. Once the clock runs out, the law is on your side. Collectors won't tell you this, of course. Fear is their business model. They want you to believe their threats carry weight. But they cannot sue you, and they cannot touch your benefits. By federal law, your Social Security is protected. That money is meant for your health and daily living, not for debts that expired decades ago. Take Margaret, an 82-year-old widow who received a demand letter for a hospital bill from more than 20 years ago. She panicked, certain she might lose her home or her check. But after reaching out to a senior legal counselor, she learned the debt had expired long ago. The collector's letter was nothing more than an empty scare tactic. That single conversation gave her the peace she hadn't felt in years. Think about what this means for you. Those threatening envelopes? They may not deserve your money at all. Those late-night calls? They may have no legal teeth. Understanding your rights can free you from fear, save you money for medicine and groceries, and restore the peace of mind you've been missing. The debt may look alive on paper, but in reality, it's nothing more than a shadow from the past. And shadows cannot hurt you once you shine a light on the truth. 6. Utility bills after death. It's a quiet evening, and you find yourself staring at the stack of monthly bills on the kitchen table. Electricity, water, gas, the phone. They're not huge compared to hospital bills or credit cards, but they nag at the back of your mind. What will happen if one day you're no longer here? Will your children be left to pick up the pieces, forced to pay for these balances just to keep the lights on? It's a quiet fear many seniors carry but rarely speak aloud. Collectors know this fear, and sometimes they even play into it. They may suggest that unpaid utility bills will fall on your loved ones, that your family won't have heat or water unless they pay what you left behind. The thought of leaving a burden behind can be heartbreaking. But here's the truth: if your name is the only one on the account, the debt ends with you. When you pass, the utility company simply closes the account. Your children or grandchildren are not responsible for what's left unpaid. Even if a family member takes over the service, they are only responsible from that point forward, not for what was owed before. This is the law, even if collectors try to confuse grieving families into paying balances that are not theirs. Robert, a 79-year-old father of 3, spent his final years worrying about a small, overdue water bill. He was convinced that once he passed, his kids would be stuck paying it, maybe even harassed by the utility company. But after speaking with a local attorney, he learned the truth. His family would not inherit that debt. All they would need to do is notify the company of his passing, and the account would be closed with no further responsibility. The relief he felt was enormous. It allowed him to spend his remaining days focusing on the people who mattered most, his grandchildren, without the shadow of guilt hanging over him. So if you've been lying awake at night worrying about utility bills following your loved ones, let that fear go. Yes, unpaid bills may mean a temporary shutoff while you're alive, but once you are gone, the debt ends. Your family's future is not tied to those final envelopes. In the end, the only thing you should be passing on is love, memories, and the peace of knowing you've lived fully, not old utility balances that no law can ever force your children to pay. As we've walked through these stories together, one truth becomes clear. Many of the debts that haunt us in our later years are little more than shadows from the past. Old medical bills, expired credit cards, long-forgotten student loans, even personal favors between friends. Most have lost their power long ago. Yet fear, guilt, and unanswered questions often linger far longer than the debt itself. And that fear can rob us of peace in a time of life when peace matters most. The good news is this: you are not powerless. By learning your rights and shining a light on the tricks collectors use, you can set down burdens you were never meant to carry. Imagine the freedom of knowing your Social Security is safe, your children won't inherit your bills, and the calls that once filled you with dread no longer hold any weight. That's not just financial freedom, it's emotional freedom too. If this message has given you a sense of relief or sparked curiosity, I invite you to stay connected. Share this with someone who might need the same peace of mind. Leave a comment with your thoughts or experiences, and subscribe to our channel so we can continue uncovering the truths that matter most to you. Your story isn't over, it's still unfolding, and you deserve to write it without fear.